Welcome back to another episode of the Park City Real Estate Podcast. Today is going to be a little bit different format. I hired out someone to help me with the production aspect, and I invited the director of business development for the Gestalt Group. And I guess, Joe, if you wanted to introduce yourself a little bit more, I might have slaughtered your title there. But so I've got Joe Gilmore with the Engel Völkers Gestalt Group, Director of Business Development Operations.
Yep. So you do have it a little bit wrong. I've actually have moved up in this world. I am now the president of business development and growth.
Okay.
Yes. I go by El Presidente when I'm sitting there drinking Coronas with my friends.
Okay.
But as you're my friend,
yeah,
you can call me Presidente also.
Okay. Sounds good.
So yeah, I run our training and coaching program, our ancillary income, and whatever else Paul asked me to do.
Okay. Yeah. And if you're not familiar with Paul, that's Paul Benson, the CEO of the Gestalt Group. And give us a quick rundown of the Gestalt Group, what you guys are doing. I'm part of Engel Völkers Park City, which is I guess original Gestalt Group member, and then Paul just kind of grew it from there. But just kind of give us a rundown of what the Gestalt Group is and the markets that we're in and everything. So.
Sure. So we have 55 shops across 7 states. So we're in California, Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, Colorado, Utah, Arizona. I'm not sure if I said Nevada, but we've got 7. We're across 7 states. Each area is kind of dynamic. We have a bunch of the ski towns in obviously Utah and Idaho and Colorado. We're in Aspen, Sun Valley, Park City. That's some of our main our snow ski towns. And then we're in Scottsdale, from Scottsdale to Dana Point, all the way up to San Francisco, Seattle, and the whole loop all the way around Tahoe. So yeah, we cover pretty much all of the Western United States.
Yeah, and that's one of the key reasons why I'm with Engel Völkers Gestalt Group. Paul's leadership, your leadership, very, very expansive, very visionary as far as being a connected network to help service our clients more for what they're looking for. We have a lot of those California, Scottsdale clients who are looking in Park City or looking for that ski mountain getaway. So then with that quick rundown, give us a good idea of what you do for the Gestalt Group with the coaching aspect and working with luxury agents within the Gestalt Group.
So I've been very fortunate for the past 10 years. I've been working with some high level producing agents in this business. I was originally with Keller Williams for 12 years and did a lot of coaching and training there. And then came over from KW with Paul. And before I could start developing out the coaching and training program, Paul asked me to really make sure that our region, I was the regional president before this. So I was the regional president of Idaho, Colorado, Utah, and Southern California. And Paul came to me and said, we really need to focus on the growth of those regions. So I started recruiting a lot, building up our different shops, getting that really set. Hired some great broker down in St. George. I have Eric that's down in Salt Lake. We have a really great team down there. And then now my focus is helping our current advisors be able to grow their business and be able to take it to the next level. When we have this crazy thing that hit this past Friday, there's a lot of concern and things that are going on. So just getting on there and helping people to understand reality and stop worrying about things that they don't have any control over, and just start moving forward with their business and start focusing on their goals and achieving those things. And we're super excited. We're going to be bringing on about 10 brand new trainers to come on that are going to have about 3 to 4 different trainings that they're going to do. So we'll be able to offer about 30 to 40 different trainings across our whole group. So I'm super excited about that. And then we're also going to be starting one-on-one coaching at a higher level for our luxury people. We like to say that luxury is not a price point, but a service provided to our clients. So we really focus in on how can we provide the best service and value to the clients and to our advisors so that they can pass that on to their people.
Yeah, I really like that. And there's a lot to unpack with that. with that introduction. And the two things that stood out to me that I'd maybe like to go into a little bit more detail on. You talked about the last point that you wrapped up, where you're talking about establishing value, but then there's also so let's talk about that real quick. I want to get into the mindset. You talked about control what you can control, right?
Correct.
And that's across any industry or across our lives. That's just a general principle. And so we can dive into the mindset aspect of how we can go about doing that.
Right.
But I want to just touch on or dive a little bit deeper on providing value.
Yep.
How we provide value.
Yep.
So I guess first question, let's start maybe at a 30,000 foot level.
Okay.
Just like what do you mean by value? Like if you're talking to agents who are trying to help their clients out and provide value for them, like what do we mean when we say that?
Well, I think that there's two different types of value. I think there's the value that the company brings, and then I believe that there's a value that you bring personally as a real estate advisor. Okay. I think that when we talk about the real estate advisor, really focusing in on, your morning routine and how you show up every day. I think that, being the best version of yourself is not exactly the easiest thing to do. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it. I can't tell you how many times I've had my butt kicked, how many books I've read, how many things I've had to do, and to be able to get to that point. So one of the things I really believe is that you really need to work on yourself twice as hard as you do on your business, and really focus on that aspect, because real estate is just a byproduct of who we are and how we show up, right? And the better we show up, the better we're going to be able to roll through the diversities that we have thrown at us every single day. And like in this profession, it happens all the time. So you really have to be able to be that best version, and talking about that all the time, and understanding if you're going to do things that are big, huge, audacious things, people are not going to look at you the same way. They're going to think you're a little crazy and a little weird. But you got to be okay with that and be able to move forward and be able to show up for your clients, your family, your friends, everybody. Then on the advisor side, I would say being very, very clear on understanding what your clients want and asking really great questions for their needs, so that you can take a look at the different values that we provide at ENV to be able to connect it to their pain that they have. Some people really care about marketing, right? And being able to talk about the marketing. Some people really care about, how are you going to show up? How are you going to get me the best price? And being able to go through those different things. I mean, here's the other piece, like you had talked about, our referral network and the people that we have across the Americas and across the globe is unbelievable. The being able to have the opportunity to be able to put your property on 55 Instagram accounts and have it on, Beverly Hills, all the way to Seattle, all the way to Aspen is just a huge thing. And being able to have your expose of your property in the window of 55 shops all across the United States. Not to even mention our listing stuff, the listing presentations that we have, our listing boxes, just everything we have, even our merchandise wall. I mean, everything is just created to be able to create more value for advisors to take that and be able to give it to their clients.
Yeah, and that. So establishing the value as an advisor by showing up as your best self,
Yep.
Having the correct mindset, the correct habits, the correct approach and systems, to your business to provide that value for the clients. And I do really like that you mentioned becoming the best version of yourself, because it is a process, and our mindset around that process is is key to how our business can be affected. One of the things you brought up was the training, the training aspect or the coaching aspect for the advisors.
Yep.
So you're bringing on 10 new trainers,
Correct.
For advisors.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about, I guess what I think about is I think about professional athletes.
Yep.
They bring professionalism and expertise to their craft because they're always practicing their craft.
Correct.
And so the way that they get better is through coaching, through through getting those people who are expert in their fields to teach them the skills that they need so they can show up on game day and perform.
Yep.
So So it sounds like Engel and Völkers has already, built the foundation for that.
Yep.
The Gestalt Group, and now you guys are adding to that foundation with these trainers. So could you tell me a little bit more about what that's going to look like as far as what they're going to be training on and how that's going to benefit advisors?
So I'm going to be bringing in 20 different advisors from around the United States. They're going to fly in. They are going to have to present their own training, what they would like to train on for 20 minutes in front of all of us. We're all going to judge them and be able to say, here are some opportunities to get better. Here are some things that you did really well. And what I'm hoping is out of the 20, we're going to have 10 people that get certified to be able to do trainings, because I'm a big believer in it's not exactly the material, but really what makes things shine is the person that presents it. And being able to be a strong presenter and be able to deliver with energy and passion the materials to our people. Here's the deal. Our people only deserve the best, right? And we're not going to settle for anybody that's not the best. And if I only get 4 or 6, then 14 more are going to pack their bags and come back in a few months, and we're going to try again. But I'm really, really excited about this opportunity for our advisors to be able to have 10 different voices that tell. I don't want to be the one, okay, that does all the training. Okay, like I love doing training. I love being there and being able to coach people to be better at training. But it's so nice to have the diversity of different personalities and different ways of being able to broadcast it out. I think that's one aspect. The other aspect is I'm super excited for my people that will become our trainers because of the opportunities that come out of it, right? And as a leader, you're always wanting to help people get opportunities and grow and be able to achieve at a higher level. And I know what happened with me when I was given that opportunity to do that. And it's really cool and exciting for me to be able to give that back to other people so they can have that opportunity also.
Excellent. When you were explaining that you're flying people in, like 20 people, and they're going to, get to present and everything, it almost sounds very Shark Tank-esque. Like, we're going to be analyzing them. Not that that's what's going to happen, but I guess the reason I bring that up is there's so many different ways to present ourselves to our clients, present our services and our value add to our sellers,
Yep.
and our buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, so we'll essentially get to see the from 20 different markets or the perspectives on those presentations from 20 different people.
Oh yeah. Dude, and there's nothing more nerve-wracking than presenting in front of your peers. Okay. And you have them sitting there watching you and they're all judging you. I went through it. This is how I know, because I can tell you this, thank God I'm not doing it. Okay. Cause I did it 6 times and I went through it and it was tough, and it's hard, believe me. But yeah, I'm super excited for the opportunities for these people, and it's going to be great for our advisors, for everybody. It just adds another layer of value that our company has that really no other luxury brand has their own training and coaching company within it to help support and grow their people.
You're right. And so I'll look forward to how that plays out as well. So I am curious though. So we've got offices in some of the biggest feeder markets for Park City, for a mountain town. Yep. And we have top performing agents from those markets as well. So let's say, we're talking about, we have an office in Dana Point, California?
We do, just opening. If it's not open yet, it'll be open the next.
It'll be open.
Weeks.
And we have offices in Napa Valley.
Yep.
We have offices in Scottsdale, Newport, and so you get to work with these agents from these high producing agents from these markets.
Yep.
So what would you say are some of the maybe habits or mindsets or how people approach their business in these markets so that they can bring a higher level of competence and that best in service that you talked about? How are these agents approaching their business to be able to do that?
Well, the top people have unreasonable expectations. Okay. And they work extremely hard to be able to go and get, and I'm not going to actually say the things that they want, because I don't necessarily think that they truly know what they want. They just know that they're going to work extremely hard to go get business. Okay. And that's where I see that opportunity lies. Okay. Where being able to really nail down what it is that you want and what it is that you really want to have, and then being able to break it down into 4 different types of lead generation buckets, and then creating systems and models around that to be able to execute on those things. It's really interesting because we had a panel that came in about maybe been 2 years ago, and we had Pavi, Michelle from St. Helena. We had Gene Merkelbach. We had Paul, and then we had Tyra from she's up in Colorado. I can't remember her name. I apologize, Tyra. But they're all top performing people. And I was asking them questions and everything. And then in the end, I said to them, I go, what is it that you guys could do within your business to make your business better? Okay. And every single one of them, we're talking, Paul Benson and Gene sell a lot of real estate, right? Every single one of them said systems and models.
Systems and models.
And being able to be more systematic in what they do. Because I'm a big believer in, you have to have goals, okay? And then you have to have systems. And then you have to have time management in order to create the money and the dream and the living you want to have. So if you can put those 3 together and master those 3, you can have anything that you want to have. The challenge is when you have these top performing people, they don't have any systems or models in place. So they're always running around with their hair on fire, and they never have time to slow down to actually put the things in place that will actually ultimately help them get even more of what they want.
Yeah. And I think, looking at Paul and how he does his business, I get the opportunity to work with him pretty closely on a few listings, and he definitely has the pieces in place.
Oh, yeah.
To, where everything is systematized.
Correct.
And so, you think about luxury real estate, we're dealing in these beautiful, beautiful homes and this incredible lifestyle, but then to unpack that and say it's systems and models, it kind of sounds a little less sexy than I was hoping for, but
it truly is though. But here's the thing I'm going to tell you. We could, when we're talking about, and you guys have to understand, like for me, I'm a trainer and I'm a coach, right? The cool and the sexy. Okay. So success is found in the boring and mundane.
Okay.
You know that because I know you. Okay. And I know how disciplined you are, and you do things repetitively over and over again that are not exactly the most exciting things. Okay. So success is found in the boring and mundane. And once you can master those things, you can have all the cool and sexy stuff you want. But if you're going to build your business on cool and sexy, you're never going to get to where you want to go. So the sexy stuff is the things that people see, okay? But the results come from the things that people do that they don't see. And that's the difference, because there is plenty of things that are luxurious about what we get to do. But it's just the fundamental things you have to do over and over and over again to be able to get the results you want to have, to be able to live the life you want to have also, right? So there's a lot of cool and fun and sexy things, but that's just what it boils down to. And that's why there's not as many people that have as much success if they like to have, because they're always focusing on, I would rather just do social media, right? But they don't want to make phone calls.
Right.
They don't want to work a database, right? It's just kind of boring for them. But, those are the things I know you do, because and that's why I have a lot of respect for you, because I know from your military background, that's how you're very system oriented and you're very disciplined. And, that's why you do great. And that's why I think you'll continue to always have year over year be better.
Well, I appreciate that. And, as you were talking about the boring and mundane, and, it's like, oh, there's these systems and there's these models, and, it's like, there are these things that you have to do, right? That aren't necessarily, the glamour of, some of these social media type marketing pieces that we see.
Sure.
But then there's a lot of work that goes on in the background.
Right.
And when I'm doing that boring and mundane task that I don't necessarily want to do, I am attaching a meaning to it.
Correct.
And so I feel like maybe that's what you mean by that is just there's a underlying why of these tasks and why you're setting up these systems and why you're setting up these models, so that basically you can present the story of your business or the lifestyle that you're selling confidently and competently. So there's basically this this behind the scenes work that goes into the forward facing aspect of anybody's business, and whether it's whether it's a personal business or whether you're part of a team. So there is that work. Now,
well, the one thing that I'll tell you is that what you just said, when you said you set things up, and what I think I heard is something that I do coach my people. No matter what you're doing, when you're out there lead generating, you're doing things and you get a win, you need to celebrate your wins.
Celebrate it.
Okay?
How do you celebrate it?
Oh, I walk around proud as a peacock.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, you have to strut and you've got to be able to love those wins, okay? Because there's going to be some unwins that are going to come your way. And you have to be able to celebrate those victories and be able to get into that mindset when you get an appointment or when you close a deal or anything like that. Just be super stoked about it and celebrate your wins.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure everybody's celebration will be different on how they do that. Maybe they text a friend or maybe, you bust out a glass of whiskey or something. Like, however you celebrate, that is important. Cause then that reinforces the actions that it took to get that
the
win.
work.
Yeah. The work that it took to get that. So I really like that. All right. Well, I had this thing in my mind, when I asked you to come here. So I typically talk about market stats. I talk about neighborhoods in Park City. I talk about the latest small town drama that's going on in Park City against various developments. We just had some billionaire in Park City sue his neighbor because his dogs were menacing. So it's just like, it's funny because there's all this drama that happens, right?
Sure.
But then that kind of affects some of the developments that are going to happen. And so that does affect real estate in some ways.
Yep.
But we as real estate agents have recently had a bunch of buzz around something that happened in Missouri, I believe it was. There were some lawsuits and the National Association of Realtors, the NAR, basically admitted to some things, and it's going to shake up how agents approach their business on the compensation side of things with buyers and all of that. At the start, you had mentioned controlling what you can control.
Correct.
And so we'll kind of maybe talk about that a little bit more, because I am curious. I feel like it's a theme that keeps coming up. I was just listening to a podcast from Grant Cardone.
Sure.
And he was saying the same thing. It's just like we gotta control that. And I mean, not to go on too long here, but I feel like, just personally speaking, when it seemed like when my options were getting smaller, when I felt like maybe I was hamstringed a little bit, is when I was able to get more creative. Yep. I was able to basically embrace that chaos, if you will, where I feel like there's all these things that are out of my control, and so I had to really hone in and focus on the things that I could control.
Correct.
And to me, that starts with mindset, right? With the narrative or the story that you tell yourself about the circumstances that are currently going on.
100%.
And so I'm curious, when you're working with these high performing agents and you're coaching, or when you're approaching your business, how do you go about just kind of sorting through some of the noise, some of the chaos to really get some clarity on focusing on what you need to focus on.
That's a great question. So
control.
There's a great book out there called The Untethered Soul. And I would recommend it if anybody ever wants to listen to a really great book about, our life and how we act. And one of the things they say in there is that the little voice that talks to us, excuse me, is like a roommate. Okay. And that one that says, why are you doing that? Are you dumb? We tried this before, she doesn't love you, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Being able to recognize those voices first and being able to say that's complete BS. Okay. I think the next thing to understand is that our brain is just matter floating in water. Okay. And it only knows what we tell it. That's it. It only knows what we tell it. And on this particular subject or any subject at all, just don't put yourself in a position or a place to be able to take in information that you don't believe in. Like that's not part of who you are and what your belief systems are, right? So being able to just do that and being able to understand what it is that you want and where you want to go and being able to believe, because moving to this piece that we were talking about, listen, I'm a big believer in action equals results, right? Mm-hmm. No action equals no results, right? So no matter what you're in and no matter where you are, and you just have to keep going and keep trying and over and over again and understanding. And listen, I have bad days too. I mean, I have to sit back and reflect and really understand what are the things that are important to me and give myself grace. Mm-hmm. Like I have to give myself grace and understand that, hey, if it's a bad day today, tomorrow's going to be better. Okay. I've got to keep my eye on the prize, and you've got to be able to understand what those things are, because like I've said a million times, people just don't really know what they want to have. And if you can just stay focused on those things, then all these other things become just stuff. And I'm not going to allow my life or the people who are around me to be just taken away from somewhere where they want to go by just casually just going in that direction. I want them to be very focused and be able to understand what it is. And believe me, I am not as focused as you. I had to work on that. Okay. I'm a high ID, and it took a lot of practice and work, but if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to smile because, there's what you see, and then there's what goes on behind the scenes. And man, I hear those voices.
Dude, let me tell you this. There's this great quote, and anybody that knows me, I have all these little
doubt,
quotes,
all that. Yeah.
And it says, "Don't judge anybody's outsides to your insides."
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Don't judge anybody's outsides to your insides.
Correct. Like you'll see all these
Why does that resonate with you?
Because you'll see like on Facebook, and you'll see everything's great, all the good things, but behind what's inside them, mm-hmm. you don't know what's going on. So don't ever sit there with your like inside your heart going, oh man, I am just in a bad place. And look at all these people. Everything's going great for them. They're not having any problems at all. You just can never, ever can understand that. And I can't tell, I really am purposeful about not watching the news. Mm. I'm really purposeful on only feeding my brain with things that are positive and good. And, it makes such a difference in your world. And we'll get into, there's exercise, there's all kinds of different things you do, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. I can't remember what the question was, but you definitely touched on some really important points there that I loved hearing your perspective. So when you were kind of going through, the doubt, or like those voices where it's maybe trying to take you back or tell you a false narrative right. that isn't true. We don't have to give credence to that narrative.
Correct.
Now, being that I'm also thinking about, okay, so how does that apply to who I work with? Mm-hmm. Because there's what we do, right? Or there's what you do.
Correct.
You work with a group of people, and I work with a group of people.
Correct.
And so a lot of times, to be able to like really put myself in the people that I serve, the people that I help choose, it really grants like an awesome perspective, because what ends up happening, at least for me, is I get that they have a million other things going on. So I guess, give more context to my thought process is I'm like, if I'm working with a buyer and that buyer, they reached out to me, or, we've gotten in touch somehow.
Sure.
And I'm trying to, I'm trying to understand where they're coming from. I'm asking them questions.
Yep.
I'm answering the questions and doing my best to provide that value to them about the market, about, what they're specifically looking for,
right,
and how best to help them identify like how they see them living their lifestyle. And so I'm doing all this work. I'm putting in all this time. I'm helping, as best as I possibly can based on the preparation that I've put into that. And then they don't buy.
Right.
or then they don't sign with me. And so, yet I like that. I like that because there is, real estate is definitely it's like a marathon almost.
Correct.
Right. And so, I think maybe one of those narratives that we repeat to ourselves, or I repeat to myself, is they're not ever going to buy.
Right.
They're not ever going to do anything, or they're not ever going to work with me. And so, I guess I'm curious, because what I found for the people who actually do end up working with me, is they have more, maybe clarity on what they're looking for. And
right.
you touched on that a little bit with, with from an agent's perspective, right? What you want, goal setting, all of that. But I guess I'm not sure exactly the point that I'm trying to make. I'm just trying to understand from like my consumer's perspective, put myself in their shoes, and then I guess just reflect on when I'm approaching my business. It's not necessarily me or anything that, like, it's not that I'm not the best that I could possibly be. It's just that, sometimes it's just not the right time. There's a timing aspect to people and their decision making, but the ones who do have a lot of clarity, they're the ones that are going to go forward and make the decision. You mentioned taking action, and so I guess just talk to me a little bit more about the action aspect of what we can do as agents, and I guess what you see from the brokerage perspective on how things take action.
I think one of the things that we have to understand is that when I'm a big disc, like profile kind of person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really being able to understand that sometimes we tend to work better with people who are like us.
Yeah.
Right. And that are a little bit different than us. And when you have somebody that maybe wasn't ready to sign that contract or wasn't ready to do something, maybe it is somebody that just needs a little bit more information, needs a little bit more time, needs a little bit more guidance, right? And I'm not here to sit here and tell you that I'm that person that would do that, okay? Because I'm very aggressive. But the more that we can become and recognize the personality types and the type of people that they are and what it is that they're looking for, and really slow down and stop thinking about that it's all about us and it's more all about them, and being able to give them the value that they want. I mean, when I was a loan officer for a long time, and I had a loan team, and I did thousands of appointments in people's homes, and I would go there, and I never left without a signed loan app. And I would sit there and I would tell them, okay, have we answered all your questions? Go ahead and sign this loan application. And they would say, no, we're not really ready to sign that. And I would say to them, every time what I've noticed when people don't sign, I haven't answered all of their questions. So I want you to know this. I'm fully prepared to stay here as long as I have to make sure I answer every one of your questions.
That's commitment.
So I would sit there and I would answer all their questions and sit there, and I would get the loan application signed. But we just have to really understand that everybody's different and they all have their own reasons, okay? And they all have their own doubts and they have their fears and all those things. And being able to just get out of ourselves. And I think you heard me say this on stage where I said, if we could all live our lives like we're guides to create as many heroes as we possibly can, and to understand that our job is to guide everybody who's in our world and do everything that we can do to guide them to get to where they want to go so that they can become a hero. I think too many times us as real estate professionals, we want to show up as the hero. Like, here I am, I'm here to save the day, right? And consumers and clients don't really dig that, okay? They want to be the hero. And just really being able to slow down and understand in the moment, in the situation. I think that goes with a lot of the different things, like being able to sit back and analyze what somebody said to you instead of actually reacting to it. Or, you know, I've read hundreds of books and I'm pretty much kind of booked out, to be honest with you. And now what I do when I listen to a podcast or anything like that, I listen to it for like 10 minutes. I pause it and I sit back and reflect on it as long as I listened or read it. So I can listen and see the magic that I just listened to, and to see if I want to take it into my world and if I don't want to take it into my world. But it does something bigger than that. It trains my brain to be able to do that in pretty much every situation that I'm in. I can now listen, pause, analyze, repeat. Instead of listening to a whole book and get 3 things or 4 things out of it, I can listen to 30 minutes and get 6 things out of it. And it just positions myself to be able to really, when I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm talking to somebody, I can really be able to reflect on it, think about it, and then ask a really great question behind it. And it's really helped me a lot on being able to calm down, analyze the situation, and dig deeper into that person to figure out what it is that's important to them.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there too. You know, I think about helping our clients, you know, they're the hero in the story. We're the guides. We're the ones that they maybe want to go to for information to help them make the decision. But at the end of the day, it's their lifestyle. It's what they want for their families.
Correct.
And you know, how they see themselves living. So
because if you go on an appointment, right, and you're sitting there and you're having this conversation, okay, and they don't understand the story or whatever it is that you're trying to tell them, it's not the client's fault. It's your fault. You're the one that wasn't able to paint the picture of the story to connect with them, to want to be able to be a part of you being their hero and helping them out with their story. Because I tell people all the time, listen, there are plenty of people that are a challenge. I'm not saying that. But there's also so many opportunities that we leave on that and we don't get because we think it's somebody else's fault while we're sitting there, and it's really not. Because we just only have one way that we normally will communicate, and that's who we are. But being able to really be able to work on trying to come from a different angle or understanding this person in front of you, you'd have so much more success.
Yeah. Well, and I feel blessed every time that a client decides to, you know, move forward based on the information that I provided them. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's basically how they see themselves and how they see themselves living their life. Right. And so there's usually a lot of motivating factors when they do make that decision. So I'm curious, you'd mentioned, so I don't think I brought it up at the beginning, but you were just on a stage with Stuart, Stuart Siegel, with the Engel Völkers, like head of Engel Völkers or VP. He
actually founded Sotheby's.
So Stuart founded Sotheby's, the real estate portion of Sotheby's. And so now he's with Engel Völkers. And you shared a stage with him. And he basically didn't rehearse anything. Kind of like with this podcast.
Correct. Exactly.
So,
but with a lot less people in front of me.
A smaller audience, just the camera and my 5 followers. But hey, shout out to my followers who are listening to this.
Whoop, whoop.
So I actually have had a few people reach out to me from this podcast. So
nice.
You just never know.
You never know.
So you were on that stage with him, and you didn't rehearse anything. What was the name of the topic, or what was the topic of conversation? Was it?
I think it was how to be a bear in a bull market.
How to be a bear in a bull market.
Yes.
Okay. And so one, I would like to you to just kind of give an overview on what you meant by that. But two, I talked to you after that whole thing went down with Stuart.
Right.
And you said that you forgot to mention one of the things that you had intended to talk about.
Oh yeah,
so,
that was funny.
So bear in a bull market, and then what did you forget?
Okay, so yeah, bear in a bull market is like, how do you show up to be the best that you can in a shifting market, basically. We have this market that we've been in for a while now, and one of the quotes that I said when we got there's a Warren Buffett, and it says, when the tide goes out, we get to see everybody who was swimming naked. So we get to see all the people that weren't doing things that they needed to be doing when time slowed down. So we wanted to talk about those different things on primarily what are the actions and activities that you need to be able to do. So, we talked about those different things. And, one of the things I was going to talk about is that there was 5 different things that every agent should be doing. And you should be lead generating. You should be setting appointments, going on appointments, writing contracts, and closing deals, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I just happened to forget my lead one, which is the most important thing of all, lead generating. Right. And completely threw me off at that point in front of everybody. And I go, well, I'll get to that in a little bit. So, it's one of those moments when you're sitting there and you're in the moment, all the lights, people coming up on stage, and then having absolutely no clue of what's going to be asked of you. But it was fun. I had a great time. Stuart's such a big player in this business. And for him to call and ask me to, invite me to go on stage with him was quite an honor to be able to do that.
All right. Well, let's emphasize that one more time. We need to be lead generating. So I like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first one.
Yeah. And then you talk about setting appointments. I think we might've mentioned that right before we started the cameras, that there are some basic things that you should be doing. Like maybe once a week, you should have a standard of what that looks like. So
I did a podcast. Did you see my Instagram post?
That's what it was. It was your Instagram post
today. Yeah, I did my Instagram post or today, and I talked about, there's 52 weeks, and I give you 4 weeks off. You get 48 weeks. If you bared down and set 2 appointments every single week, and you converted on 50% of those, that's 48 closed transactions. The challenge as a coach, I've seen people do unbelievable things that they did not think were possible because they were held to a higher standard on the activities that they needed to do to be able to get the results they wanted to have. And it's showed up time after time after time. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, do you know why the Native American Indians were really good at hunting?
I don't know.
Because if they didn't kill something and eat it, they were going to die.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right? So if you had the same mindset that you have to go out and lead generate to go and get an appointment, and if you didn't, you were going to die, then I would guarantee you would get 2 appointments a week. I guarantee it. The challenge is that far too many people are comfortable and then bitch about not being busy at the same time. And that to me, because when you know that what they can do is possible, makes me crazy. Okay. And because I know the potential that's inside every single person. The challenge is being able, and I'll say the best accountability is self-accountability. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody to come to me and say, hey, Joe, I really like you to coach me so you can hold me accountable. Okay. That's not a good fit for me. Okay. If you're not, it's like Oprah Winfrey and Richard Branson. I don't think they have somebody saying, Oprah, I think it's time to get up now. Okay. You need to go and make your phone calls. Okay. All successful people. Look at Paul. Does Paul have anybody telling him he needs to get up and get to work? No. He does the business. He does the work. He puts the time in. And if people would just have a little bit more desperation in their world on understanding how important their goals are, because I tell everybody all the time, if you don't have goals and you can't tell me what your goals are, I'm going to tell them, congratulations. You have accomplished everything you ever wanted right now, right here. Why would you not have bigger goals so you can do bigger things? Right? And the answer to that is nobody slows down to really understand what the hell it is that they want to have. Right? And those are the things that make me, I'm telling you, that make me crazy, because I had somebody give me a check. I told them, you're going to set a one recruiting appointment every day. And if you don't do that after a week, you don't have 5 recruiting appointments, you're going to send me a check for $1,500 to Trump's reelection committee. And as soon as you don't do it, I'm dropping it in the mail. He did it, and he recruited like 20 people. Okay. Another great story. I'm talking to one of my ladies that I'm coaching, and I hear her daughter in the room. And I say, hey, Jen, can I talk to your daughter? So their daughter gets on, and I said, hey, I've got great news for you. Your mom just told me this. She's going to get 3 listings next month. And as soon as she gets those 3 listings, she's going to take you and your sister to Disneyland, and she's going to give you $500 each. She starts screaming. She's going crazy, out of her mind. And I go, but I need you to do me a favor. Every time your mom comes home from work, I want you to ask her this question. Mom, did you get a listing today? Okay. Sure as hell, she got 3 listings that next month. And Esteban,
listings are hard to come by right now,
dude. I see it time,
or at least that's what we tell ourselves.
Again, on that piece right there. We just don't push ourselves hard enough to get the things that we actually want to have.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yeah. So let's just kind of wrap things up on that little note there. So you said it drives you crazy that people, you see what people can accomplish, but they're not necessarily, doing that. And it's because they don't have the goals, or maybe they're comfortable, whatever it is, complacent. You also, you talked about the Native American, the hunting thing, right? So as a runner, for me personally, I think that's, that's where I'm able to dig deep, is I do visualize there's this, very dire consequence for not completing,
correct,
what I set out to do. Right. It is literally, that, that survival mode, if
correct,
you will. So with that, like, I want to take it back to the NAR thing. Right.
Yep.
So maybe there are some people who are really worried about, what's going to happen, or just like this uncertainty, where we don't know exactly how to present to our clients. What would be the advice that you would give to anybody out there who is maybe struggling with, this uncertainty, how we're going to approach things, or,
sure,
that,
is that for advisors or clients?
For advisors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So on the advisor side of things, I think that one, you just need to understand your value. Like, you really do need to understand your value on what you can bring to the table. I think that what's cool about what happened is now we have more of an opportunity to be able to work with buyers like we worked with listings, and really be purposeful on working with buyers. Because let's face it, sometimes buyers were second-class citizens across our industry at times. They weren't treated as the same as a listing. Let's put it that way. I think you just be able to work with those buyers, and just now you just have sit down and have conversations with them, and just saying, hey, I need to be compensated by you on this transaction is no different than if you hired a lawyer, if you hired anybody, professional service that you needed to hire. This is what I do. The only difference between the two is that you can't hire a lawyer and then say you're going to charge the other party for his services or her services, which you can in this situation. So being able to, first and foremost, what I would say is don't listen to any more stuff on the news. Okay. Like, they really don't know what they're talking about. The thing hasn't even been finalized yet. All right. For another thing. And, find your group, find your community, find your people. I mean, call me, whoever you need to get a hold of that's in the industry, that this is what we do for a living. And we're constantly looking at these things, so you don't have to dream up these imaginary dragons that are going to come and slay you and slaughter you. Okay. Because, like, the more that we worry and doubt and all that stuff, it's blocking you understanding what you can do instead of worrying. So that's one thing. Being able to have a really great conversation with the client and just explaining the whole process of how the whole thing works. I think people are really freaking out right now about getting buyer broker agreements right there before they show them the properties. That's where I think they're having the biggest challenge about how do we position that, how do we set that up, and the people that are in our group are pretty fortunate because we're going to have multiple. Like when I was on my way here, I was talking to a licensed partner in Rhode Island, and do you know Lisa Sutton from Vegas?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay, she's another licensed partner in Vegas, and we're going to do a big town hall thing for advisors so we can, they can ask us questions, and we're going to go back and forth on all the stuff that they have. But really understand nothing has really changed because the same amount of commission is already baked into the listing price, right? These sellers aren't going like, I was going to list my house for $1 million, but now that I don't have to pay the buyers, I'm only going to list it for $970.
Right.
Okay. That's not the case. The money is there. You just have to be able to show up and be able to present your value, write great offers, okay, and present it to the seller and negotiate the commissions. Just there's nothing else that has really changed besides that, and it will work out over time. So, my suggestion is I can't give any really solid sound advice based off of anything because none of it's concrete.
Right.
Right. But
right.
Be prepared. It's going to be a little different, but it's still the same at the same time, right? There's just going to be different processes that we need to go through.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that because I think it is, people who work with a lot of buyers who are wondering, like, am I going to be able to get compensated, the same? But I think what's important, what you touched on, is we would, as real estate agents, we would go into these listing presentations fully prepared, presentation,
Yep.
Researched, like knowing everything about the neighborhood, everything
Yep.
about the, what's happened and the history of the house
Right.
and all of that when it's sold. But we would maybe not do that sort of preparation or planning with our buyers.
Correct.
So all it is doing then is it's having us step up our game for our buyers. So we're establishing that value up front with our buyers where they are willing to compensate, so that we can work on their behalf, whether it's helping them identify the perfect property, perfect home for them,
Yep.
whether it's, helping them negotiate the best deal for that home. I think I just heard an anecdotal story where a buyer decided to work directly with a list agent on a property. And, this was Mauricio Umansky who shared this anecdote.
Sure.
So he's dealing in $40, $50 million homes. And so because that buyer decided to go directly to the list agent for that home, they ended up not knowing the market. Mm-hmm. They overpaid for the home by like $6 million. And so that in and of itself, if they would have just taken the time to work with a buyer's agent,
Yep.
Then they would have saved themselves millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's a very important point where you're establishing that value up front. So I guess that's our hour. We're at about it. But any alibis, anything else you would like to say to the audience to wrap up the podcast?
I would just say everything's gonna be okay.
Everything's going to be okay.
Everybody just take a chill pill. It's just another new thing. Zillow came along. Everybody freaked out. It was just going to be the end of all the stuff. The internet, when it first came around for real estate, it was all going to be the end. We weren't going to have any jobs. I actually think this is good for the client, honestly, all the way around. But just reflect on like what you want and how you want to be able to succeed, and do role play. Role play your buyer presentations. Don't be afraid. Everybody kind of thinks it's stupid. You're going to be stupid. The only thing to be stupid is when you're practicing on real clients. Okay. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. When you go back and forth with your fellow advisor or agent and you're doing that, that's not dumb. So don't practice on your people. Practice on the people that you work with day in and day out, because they'll get better at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. I mean, we're in a very professional, high standards, based company with Engel Völkers, and so yeah, the opportunity is there to be able to talk through things with our fellow advisors, and yeah, I'm just I feel like it's a great opportunity to level up our game, raise our standards,
Absolutely.
and all of that for the end user, the end consumer, our clients. And so I'm very excited for that opportunity to be able to do that. I'm glad I get to work alongside you to be able to do that, Joe.
Yep.
And
Thank you for the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.